Why are we still paying for secondary school in the first place?
Good morning, and thank you very much for having us here. Definitely, to access education, maintain it, you'll have a cost, and that cost is for infrastructure, for tuition, for extracurricular activities, and for meeting other basic needs, including support staff. We are a developing country, and therefore we don't have a lot of money to cover completely our education system, including secondary education. But we do have some money that can be prudently utilized to ensure that the fees charged in all public institutions is commensurate with the rights and the needs of the people of the Republic of Kenya, who expect the government to meet those obligations that are stipulated in law, in the Supreme Law of the Constitution and the subsidiary regulations, including the Education Act. And therefore, the justification to pay is there universally. Nothing is for free. But who pays is a question. So the government has agreed that this percentage will be made by the taxpayers, and only this limited portion will be paid by the individuals. That is in black and white.
Right. Professor Samuel, I'll turn to you because I saw you scribbling furiously at that first question. You know, what happens after primary school? We have free primary education. Why are we still paying for secondary school education in spite of a task force saying that we could have introduced free secondary school education as of last year?
Good morning, and thank you for the question. I think the Honorable Member for Mukurweini, Kapando has said it rightly. There are two things to educating somebody. There is the cost of educating, and then there is the fee you charge the person for that education. What we have neglected for a long time is to actually understand and quantify what is the cost. And then we ask the second question, who pays for that cost? It could partly be paid by the beneficiary, the parents, or the student, or it could be paid by the state. In a lot of countries the world over, the two models exist. You get countries that say education is free. Actually, it's not free. The cost of education, literally the world over, is there, and is almost the same. In fact, the higher the cost, sometimes the higher the quality. So as we talk about quality, we must refer to the cost of that quality. In the university sector, for example, we have commissioned new universities. If you look at the infrastructure cost of a new university, that is cost. Who pays for that cost?
Okay, so then we come to the guidelines, which is where your beef was with some secondary schools. How do we get to the guidelines, the cost, and then how do we find the impunity of schools flouting these guidelines?
Exactly. The fees guidelines were as a result of a very comprehensive process. Public hearings managed by a task force appointed by His Excellency the President. Therefore, it was a constitutional, legal method used to bring outcomes that require obligations by the state agencies and by all the players in the education sector. The Professor Kilemi Mwiria report was as a result of stakeholder participation. The teachers associations, that's the primary school teachers, health association, the secondary school teachers association, CUPET, NAT, NGOs, Limietu networks, and so on and so forth, and many private citizens also submitted memoranda. And therefore, the recommendations that were presented to the President and adopted by the Ministry and gazetted are a legal tool that should be complied with. Yesterday, this question has been pending for about 7 months, and I'd like to say that also was Sigil MP who submitted a very comprehensive memorandum to the task force, and therefore I've been following on this matter very keenly, working closely with all those that participated. And yesterday, the Cabinet Secretary, my friend Dr. Fred Matiang'i, informed the committee that there was disobedience on the part of schools, to be specific, principles and boards of management in regard to these guidelines. And our position is, there is a constitution that requires access to basic education for every Kenyan child. That basic education is from preschool up to secondary school, that's Form 4. Then there is the Education Act that says that on admission to any public institution, no school administration should charge a parent or guardian admission fee. That's the Education Act. And it goes further to say that every child is entitled to basic education pursuant to the constitutional obligation of the state to provide that basic education. Therefore, the fact that you can go to some schools, and we can name very many of them, I don't think there's any need to do so here, because the list is almost maybe 90% of them, charging over 50-60%, some even 100% over what is provided for by the ministry. And the ministry is saying that yes, we know, but we are unable to. You know. And
what reason did they give for saying that they're able to curb this?
I don't understand, because first, and there's a reason.
Minister said it was the Teacher Service Commission that should punish those teachers that are overcharging.
Doesn't that have to do with devolution?
No.
As well. No. When he says that the county directors of education will be held responsible, that's not.
No, the county directors here serve under the species of the ministry.
Right.
And education is a national government function. It's not a county government. It's only that the county directors are officials. They are like the county commissioners, and the sub-county directors like the deputy county commissioners. So is that you're saying that to move forward, the county directors of education and the newly appointed 8 regional directors of education will be responsible for signing of fee structures in every of the respective schools in their jurisdiction.
Now, Mheshimiwa, all schools are not the same.
Yes.
There are some schools that have facilities that are not available in others.
Yes.
They are not the same, just like human beings.
Yes.
So, parents, and I've been a parent, and I've been a member of the board, and the PTA, they go and meet. They say we have this facility, say they want to buy a bus, or they want to build a wall, they want to do some whatever they want to do, or they want to reward the teachers to go to Dubai to buy shopping, because they pass. These things happen. So they ask the parents, pay more, and the board meets, and the parents meet, and they say we will pay more. What's the issue there?
You know, compliance with the law.
No, it is our money.
Compliance with the law is not a discretion of any citizen. The law. If we say that schools have discretion to impose any fees because some parents met in an annual general meeting, when in that very report, the Memoria report indicates that in many schools, that I can give you examples, because when you're a member of parliament, you meet a lot of parents because some students, either through the Ministry of Education or CDF, they are benefiting from bursaries, and you have reports from schools, both the fees, the requirements, and also the activities of the schools. Let me tell you the truth on the ground, is that many parents, including in the oldest and most top schools in this country, national schools,
the ones who have mentioned actually are the top ones,
have no major voice, and that is captured in that report, have no voice in the AGMs. The annual general meeting, and that's something that needs to be corrected. The AGMs are an issue. You know, these are parents. Imagine a parent from the most forlorn, most remote part of this country as a child admitted to Alliance or Mangu or Kenya High. It's even the first time for that parent to come to Nairobi, seated on the grass, during the AGMs. And you have board members that have names of Kabando and Mutegi, seated there with the principal called Professor Somi. And they agree in the boardroom what should be suggested. Even you may have even 3/4 of those parents not even understanding English. They have not even read the minutes.
So Mheshimiwa Kabando, from your understanding,
yes, yeah.
Who is the convener of a school AGM? Is it the board,
yes,
or is it the parents association?
The convener for school AGMs is the board in conjunction with the parent teachers association.
Sorry, Mheshimiwa, you are wrong.
Okay.
According to the law, the
yeah.
constitution of an AGM for a school is the prerogative of the parents association.
PTA.
The board, in every case, can choose to support or not. The main financier of a school program in a public school are the parents. And I'm surprised you're talking about the law and you seem to be applying it selectively, because the Education Act is very clear. Parents are supposed to fund schools. The law gives them a mandate to sit and decide how to raise funds for projects in the schools. To what extent is that wrong?
I would disagree with it. You know, we are
You're disagreeing with the law that you made in Parliament?
No, let me answer you. Yes. You know, there is what you call idealism and what you call pragmatism. What is reality? The reality, first, is that AGMs are convened by the PTAs in conjunction with the board of management. I want to know any school in this republic where you have had an annual general meeting where only the PTA were involved and not the AGM. In fact, because we also have served in many boards, or we know what functions the boards carry, even the AGMs, the dates, the logistics are decided in the boards of management meetings. Those are the realities. And anybody watching and has had a child or has participated in school, secondary schools activities or primary schools know that issues of annual general meetings are a function in the reality of the PTAs and BOMs.
So I don't know.
So now to move to the second aspect. It's not true that schools are funded by parents. Let me tell you, the law is very clear. Schools, public schools, are state institutions. They are agencies on one basic need acquisition, education. So it is the responsibility of the government, clearly, I don't know which law you are going to quote, to finance public schools.
Ideally.
Not ideally.
Can we make a distinction? And I'll ask you this, Charles, because both you and Mutegi have served on PTAs. Mutegi, you've been a teacher. What is the distinction between fees, okay, and the projects that you talk about? You know, the bus, you know, rewarding the teachers. Is there a distinction?
There's tuition fees, which nobody.
Tuition fees.
Tuition. That's the money that students pay to.
Yes.
That's what the government says. We will pay this amount.
Right.
Like in another school, they say, in another school, we'll pay this. In another school, we'll pay this. That's tuition. That's very different. Then there is other money for running programs like hostel. In our school, we want our children to eat bacon in the hostel. Other schools, they want to eat githeri. If our children or our parents are able to pay for bacon, and the meet and say, our children, because you are Kenyan or whatever, they will eat bacon. Your children will eat githeri. What's the issue?
You know, that's hilarious.
I'll give you an example.
The obligation, I want to repeat, the obligation of the state to provide education, just that, like to provide health care and security, is not dispensable to anybody else. And therefore,
I want to disagree with that. Even education, even security. How many times have I seen villagers building a police station? There's an obligation.
They have that obligation in an ideal situation.
We find in our Nyumbakumi situation, our road is not good. So we team up, we put Maram. We find we need a police station. We team up, we build a police station. We ask the government, give us the police.
The reality,
now, the same thing with
the reality today, speaking as one of the members of the National Parliament, is that nobody should be fundraising to build police stations, but you cannot be prevented from doing so. In my constituency, I find Wazir getting together because maybe they're impatient that money is not going to come, but the reality on the ground is that we do provide for those sort of projects.
Apply the same to education.
And therefore,
apply the same to a school.
But it is not
you are not being reasonable.
No, it's not applicable in education. It cannot be applicable in education. Just like I've said, even in the police posts, and I'm talking about Mukurweini, we have had those events, I know, even recently. But the same people know that really if they were to conjunct very nicely with the mandated agency, it will be done. You cannot tell me that we let public institutions be subjected to unattainable privileges of a few endowed individuals at the detriment or disadvantage of majority of parents in this country. I'm telling you, the reality is majority of parents in this country would rather have their children eat ugali, eat gedere, eat omena, whatever is basic food, nutritious food, not those bacons and those cakes.
I was just being
as long as they can access quality education.
You started very well.
Okay.
The cost of education.
Yes.
And who should bear the cost of education? But from where I sit, you seem to me like you want to become populist.
Okay.
You are forgetting the realism and you are concentrating on the idealism.
Okay.
Because all schools in the country need to provide basic education to our children. They need, and I'll pick it from where you say, the government should take up the cost of basic education. Tuition, for example, it is the prerogative of the government to pay salaries for our teachers. Take the case of a school that has 10 teachers and 600 students. Can they get quality basic education? Is a parent going to sit back and wait for the government to hire more teachers?
Yeah.
Can't we be more proactive, sit as parents and agree that let's pay extra and hire teachers on board terms?
I'm actually with you.
And by the way, that is just an example.
I'm actually
teachers is one.
Yes.
Like Mr. Mutegi said, I mean, boarding schools, dormitories is another. In another case, classrooms is another. In another case, are you even aware that the government capitation now is only giving 13,000 shillings approximately per child per year?
I know.
Can that teach a high school kid?
You're talking about primary school.
No, secondary.
No.
Okay.
Secondary, 13,000.
Let me come. I am with you to the extent that we do have basic obligations as parents. But the question here is not about the little money we earned in order to maintain that extra teacher. Because we know the government has yet to provide for 100% staffing on teaching area. Number two, we also know that schools require security, and they require cooks, and they require secretaries. There is a small percentage in reality that can be levied on parents approved by the Ministry of Education. But the question here is about arbitrary increase of fees, and reasonably so.
Okay, let's define what you mean by arbitrary and what you're defining as being unreasonable. Maybe that's where we should have started. Because Mutegi and Charles seem to be on the same page that,
yes.
You know, parents do need to step in to ensure that there is quality and access, particularly, as we know, because the government tends to be slow and cannot be everywhere. And so people take matters into their own hands. What is arbitrary?
After the very wide, consultative, deep research, it was concluded by the task force that with 53,000 Kenyan shillings annually, schools will be able to run. All right? And with the 9,000 Kenyan shillings annually, these schools will be able to run. Of course, being aware that you have other sources of financing, the ministry infrastructural projects, the constituency development funds for infrastructural projects, and also the bursaries from the CDF and from the Ministry of Education. So that is the recommendation of the
Which
state.
was done by Kremi Moria.
Which was done and adopted. No, it was done by Kremi Moria
And adopted.
and their team.
Yes.
And by the way, the whole
and
gazetted by the Ministry of Education. So if we are saying that in other areas, this is a fee chargeable in a court of law, this is a fee chargeable to obtain other services from public hospitals, then why are we accepting that in education sector, and education being the foundation for every person to achieve success in career and in the personal needs in the future, that in education you can actually charge double to the fees allowed.
Hold on, just a minute.
What we are talking about is violation of the law.
Okay,
violation of the law.
Sir, you've made that point. But why are you calling it arbitrary?
I'm talking about arbitrary because even to the admission of the cabinet secretary, schools have increased fees without following the procedure permitted by the law.
And what is the procedure?
The procedure is, if you want to charge extra levy, for instance, because you cannot meet your budget, or because you had a loan before the new fees guidelines were allowed, you submit your request to the county director of education. You start with the sub-county director of education. The county director of education then submits that request to the Minister of Education headquarters for the ministry to approve. The cabinet secretary himself yesterday, after going through a sample list, said, I don't even recall any of those schools coming to make a request. And he actually said that coming January, or with immediate effect, I assume it's January because the term is coming to an end, he will ensure that only the county directors of education, supervised by the 8 regional directors that he has dispatched to manage the clusters of counties, will approve any fees structure, and therefore the levies must be legitimized, legalized.
If I belong to a school, and all these things are followed, I don't know of any principal or any board that will just increase without those approvals.
It has happened.
If it happens, that's illegal.
That's actually criminal.
It's criminal.
Exactly.
What I know is this, that whatever PTA and Board of Governors sit and approve, they go through the process and it's approved by the government. But anyway, in any case, that 53,000 shillings, the value of 53,000 shillings 3 years ago and today is the same.
Precisely.
During the times of drought like now, or when the power increases, surely schools must also adjust. Life is not stagnant, so that you now put a blanket. Even your own budget at home, it is not the same. You might say this year I spent this, but you find that when you go to buy bread, the shopkeeper...
A non-teaching staff member of a school who was earning 3,000 shillings 3 years ago is experiencing the hardships in the economy and wants a pay rise. Where is that money going to come from if the fee sticks at 53,000?
You know what you are saying is that even NHIF put their rate at 500 shillings per month. If as a lawyer your rates are gazetted in a court of law or what we should pay you, or even in transport, what you are saying that tomorrow arbitrarily you can wake up just because
it happens every day. You go to a hospital, health services are there. It's free. You go to a prescribed dawa, you go to the hospital clinic, chemist, you find there's nothing. You go to the next shop, you buy.
Professor said something.
Actually, I would like the professor to come in because he's been making notes all along.
And I remember his first statement.
Yes, go ahead.
In situations where the cost of education is higher, the quality of education tends to be higher.
Okay.
So do we want basic in Kenya?
Okay.
Let me come in with what Mutegi just said. I think it's a very big statement that I've ever had. Life is not stagnant. Look at the universities. In 1991, the government decided that government-sponsored students will pay 16,800 per year. That's what they pay now. 20 years. So whenever we say there seems to be a joke with respect to quality, forget secondary school, come to university. For 19 years, we have been saying the payment of fees by government-sponsored students is 16,800. Never been raised. Anytime somebody says we want to raise fees, there is a threat to strike. But let's put it this way. The cost of living is not stagnant. It must be adjusted on an annual basis, even in your own house, as you say. So, quality and relevance are two critical areas.
Okay,
and if we really want quality.
Don't we hear when May Day comes, Liberty, don't we hear workers saying increase every year?
Okay.
We've increased basic.
I think, Madam, I think the focus here is not that life changes and the cost of living changes. The point at the discussion here
is procedure.
Is about not even procedure. The main focus is that in this country, we are not a banana republic. We are a democratic republic. That we do have laws. Okay? We do have a constitution, and we do have subsidiary laws, in this case, the Education Act, that clearly stipulate what should be done, and therefore, the contrary of it is what should not be done. And in this regard, we do have the stipulated guidelines, the gazetted fee structure for all public schools, sub-county, county, extra-county, and national schools. And the point of discussion and focus is that